Something very suspicious and very strange is going on, and an emergency situation has been declared for over 30 million Americans due to what's going on. And this is going to affect multiple states: Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. All these different states are going to be hit by this. And it is very suspicious what's going on. All right. It could be a complete coincidence, but it also seems very strange. And we're going to dive into what is happening. I also wanted to give a quick update really quick on what's happening in Ohio, because people in Ohio are now testing for these cancer chemicals, these dioxins that are in the soil and the air and the water all over Ohio. They stay in the soil for a very long time, and these dioxins are directly linked to Agent Orange. And now people in Ohio are testing positive for these cancer chemicals inside their own bodies. So you can see here, East Palestine residents test positive for cancer-linked toxin following train derailment. East Palestine resident Shelby Walker said on Fox that her concerns surrounding her health after testing positive for vinyl chloride and benzenes, highly toxic dioxins, and like I said, linked to Agent Orange, which can cause microcephaly, macrocephaly, being born without limbs, being born without eyes. Very devastating effects, and it's generational, that it can affect even your children after you've been exposed to these chemicals. This is what happened to people in Vietnam. All right. You can also see another train derailment here happened in Wisconsin. This happened a couple days ago, and I didn't report on it yesterday because it wasn't hazardous. It wasn't a toxic chemical spill. Thankfully, that's what they are saying, apparently. But how many more of these train derailments do we need until there's a wake-up call, until something happens? Because it could have easily been another situation like this in East Palestine, people being tested for cancer chemicals in Wisconsin and flowed all the way down the Mississippi River. The Ohio River flows into the Mississippi River as well already. All right, so let's dive into what's happening here. And I wanted to set the stage really quick of something very suspicious that could be a possibility. I'm not saying this is what happened, but it's a possibility. We are in the 21st century, and we live in a high-tech world, and we need to think of all the possibilities that could happen. Also, there's an emergency situation in California that we're going to get to, and some banking news that I will get to in just a minute as well, after all this big stuff and these 30 million people being affected. All right. But I wanted to highlight this really quick before we get into the big news, because this is real and this is happening right now. And they made an article on this in January out of Scientific America. I just wanted to kind of set the stage for what potentially could happen and what we could see happen. All right. So you can see here, scientists fire lasers at the sky to control lightning. Laser beams could be used to deflect lightning strikes from vulnerable places such as airports and wind farms. And there's a picture there of them using the laser lightning rod. So they use the laser to ionize the atmosphere and create a very conductive point for the lightning to hit. All right, the lightning almost has to hit it. And normally the air doesn't act like this, and it just travels through the air. But these lasers are able to ionize the atmosphere and ionize the air. All right, we've talked a lot about ionization, the ionosphere, all these things going on lately. They're constantly manipulating them and altering them and trying to get new results out of them. And now we are seeing controlled lightning manipulation as well. All right, it's just something I wanted to throw out there because it's suspicious. All these things going on, how do they keep happening? All right, they could be cyber attacks. There could be bigger events going on. There could be manipulations going on like this. I even talked about how there are high-powered directed energy weapons like lasers that can start fires, that can melt entire metal buildings, all right, just burn right through them. And they could leave very little evidence of who did them, all right? So let's get into the details here. Over 30 million people are being affected by this, and then we will get into all the details of what's going on in California as well. So you can see here, here's a map of what's going on. All right, so if you are in Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, even Pennsylvania, all the way up there, you could be affected by what's going on right now. And the reason I wanted to bring up this lightning manipulation, because this gas pipeline was struck by lightning and exploded right here at the top of Mississippi. You can see some pictures here. This is out of Corinth, Mississippi. Lightning reportedly strikes as Columbia Gulf fires appear to spark natural gas future rally. All right. So you can see here, massive devastating explosion, and apparently it was caused by lightning that struck this gas pipeline that is critical to supplying natural gas to all these different states: Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, even Virginia. All right, all these different processing facilities, the midstream processing, the Millennium Pipeline, the Hardy Storage, the Columbia Gas Transmission, are all going to be affected because they need this natural gas that is coming from the Gulf of Mexico. And it was hit right here in Corinth, Mississippi, where that big red arrow is. So it's cut off at a main central point. And you can see here, it looks devastating. All right, very hard fire to put out. They did get it out, but it's hard to put out these gas fires because the pipeline itself is on fire. You have to turn it off. All right, and that's what they did. TC Energy declares a force majeure on Columbia Gulf natural gas station after fire, and they have reduced their capacity to move gas through by 80%. 80%. So this is huge, and this is going to affect all these different states: Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee. It's going to affect their natural gas prices. It already has. It was saying it was already jumping on the futures markets, and it's going to potentially create shortages as well in these areas until they could get it to full capacity. So you can see here, they had to reduce the capacity by 1.75 billion cubic feet. Massive, massive until further notice. And just in the past week, 2.2 billion cubic feet passed through from the Appalachia to the Gulf Coast, all right, passed through Corinth. So that's a 80% reduction. If they're taking off 1.75 billion cubic feet and it normally passes through 2.2 in a week, that's an 80% reduction right there in 1 week of natural gas flowing. So this could be a devastating event for these states, and people depend on this for their stove. People depend on this for their heating, and actually natural gas is one of the main drivers of electricity. They use natural gas to create electricity. It's one of the main things they use. So we could also see electricity shortages as well in this area. So this is big news. This is affecting over 30 million people that could have gas shortages here. And you can see here, it's right there, cut at a critical point before it gets to all these other gas transmission lines that go into all these other states. So if you are here, get stocked up now. I was thinking I need to get stocked up on my propane for my RV, all right, because I don't have any propane in any of the tanks. One of these things, you need to be stocked up right now. Get your home tank filled up if you're in this area, because we could see prices spike. So that's why I wanted to bring this up, because it's just very strange. I saw multiple comments saying that they've worked in the gas industry for decades and they've never seen lightning strike a pipeline because they are normally so low to the ground. So they've never seen anything like this, much less a critical pipeline that supplies natural gas to all these other states. And it could be completely coincidental. I reported on yesterday how there was massive storms, there was tornado warnings, all these different things going on in the southeast. So it could be coincidental, all right? It could just be a natural weather phenomenon. But we live in a time where there's these people that have access to technology to actually control the weather and control lightning itself. Very dangerous and very sketchy. And I saw this put out too, all right? I thought this was kind of strange and kind of suspicious that this idea is being pushed. It's you can see it out of Rolling Stone. I don't even want to read this movie headline, but you can see How to a Pipeline, and they're saying the hottest date movie of the season. I'm completely confused here, but the point is they're promoting that they want people to do this. All right, this is an idea they're putting out there, how to do this to a pipeline. If you're listening to me, look at your screen really quick and see the name of this movie. This is a real movie that just came out this month, or like last month. Just came out. This is an article out of Rolling Stone. This is a real movie, and the whole base of the movie is they're trying to figure out how to destroy this pipeline, which is critical to our energy and to our infrastructure. And check out this other thing here. This happened yesterday as well in New Hampshire. 2 different explosive devices exploded hours apart in Ware, New Hampshire. And one of them hurt a bystander. And I believe they already arrested somebody for this event. But I thought this was interesting because we just had a pipeline explode, and this movie just came out. And if you did this with any other thing, how to whatever, right? I don't even want to say it on here. It would be a problem. People would not agree with it, and rightfully so. And I'm really confused how this is a mainstream movie that's being pushed and news articles all over the place, how it's super trendy and you should go watch this movie. Very strange. I'm not sure what's happening here, but you guys tell me down below. All right, let's get into what's happening here in California as well. So evacuations are underway due to this massive flooding and snowmelt that they're experiencing, and they are now having landslides as well, which are taking out homes, taking out buildings, and even taking out the railway services in California. So you can see here, this is a cultural center that collapsed in California, and they are having homes collapse as well due to these landslides, and people are having to evacuate, and they've even had to shut down the trains again for the second time in the past couple weeks to repair them because they're getting washed out in the same area over and over due to the extreme snowmelt and the extreme flooding that they're experiencing. And there have been entire neighborhoods, entire communities that have been flooded due to this snowmelt, and they are saying that they might not exist anymore because they built these communities in old dried out lake beds, and now these lake beds are refilling due to this excess snowmelt, and they're having record-breaking years all over the place. In Colorado, they're having record-breaking years. California, they're having record-breaking years. It is just constantly snowing here, even this late in the year. It's almost May, and we just got a foot of snow just the other day. And then a day later, we got more snow. We got 6 inches of snow again a day later. All right, I cleared the driveway, and then snowed again. I had to clear it again. And check out this article real quick. This is from 2016 from the Los Angeles Times. And this is something that's just been admitted for so long, so many decades. And I just like to bring it to light because it's out there. It's happening. It's a real thing. And when do we get to a point where it's potentially like the responsibility of these governments that are doing the cloud seeding? Check out this article. LA officials seeded clouds during El Nino storm in hopes of more rain. This is from 2016 out of the Los Angeles Times. They've been doing this for decades and decades and decades, and the programs are only ramping up even more. And now we are seeing evacuations, landslides, trains sliding out. People can't travel. Some people don't have cars and they have to travel by train, and they can't get anywhere now. And when do we reach a threshold that maybe it's their fault, right? Maybe people should get some compensation because this cloud seeding is causing excess rain and excess flooding, excess snowmelt. Yes, it's good for the drought. Yes, it's good for the aquifer. Yes, it's good for the reservoirs, all these things, all right? That's great. But what's the limit, all right? And what's the cost as well? These cloud seeding programs spray silver iodide, and silver is a heavy metal that is very hard to get out of the environment. Once it's in the environment, it's pretty much in there. And it can also cause toxicity in humans, and it can also kill microorganisms, and fish and birds affect them very easily, and it kills microorganisms naturally, very easily. So does iodide. These are both natural disinfectants, and that's what they spray, silver iodide. And these things naturally kill the microorganisms in our soil, on our plants, in the air, on our skin, everywhere, in our bacteria, or in our gut, everywhere, in our water. These microorganisms are critical to our health, and they're potentially being altered, and our soil alkaline or acidity has been altered as well with this spraying. Constantly introducing a heavy metal to the soil can cause toxicity and cause more alkalinity in the soil as well, and lock out nutrients for certain plants. All right, I know I'm getting a little heady here, but these are the consequences that are not being considered, and they're just openly doing this cloud seeding all over the place. It's happening all over. This is from 2016. This isn't new, and they've admitted going back to the 70s, the 60s and 70s to start doing these cloud seeding experiments. All right. And you can even see here, I went and grabbed all this stuff for you guys really quick so you can see none of this is made up. This is all real. All right. Right here on the utah.gov website. Silver iodide is in the snowpack and cloud seeding areas, and it will be considerably diluted during the spring melt. Given these facts, the relative low toxicity of silver in humans, the EEP concludes that silver from the cloud seeding projects is not expected to harm people's health. So they're saying, they're admitting this is real. And yeah, small doses won't. But what happens when this happens over decades and decades and decades? This water is being contaminated. The soil is being contaminated. You can see here, the silver ion is amongst the most toxic of heavy metal ions, particularly to microorganisms and to fish. They're saying that it forms insoluble compounds, so it reduces its importance as an environmental contaminant, but it also affects microorganisms and fish, and it can kill microorganisms very easily. And that's what silver specifically made to do. Colloidal silver in medical situations, it's used as a disinfectant to kill all the bacteria. And silver is also the most highly conductive metal on planet Earth. All right, I had someone arguing with me that copper was the most conductive. Copper is the second most conductive. It is the most widely used because we couldn't afford to have silver wiring all throughout our houses and on our cars and all of our electronics. We couldn't afford to have silver wiring. So copper is almost just as good, highly conductive, but silver is the best. And how does that relate to this? All right, how does that relate to this? To these directed energy weapons? I mean, they are spraying silver iodide in the atmosphere that could electrically charge and be electrically conductive to charges throughout the atmosphere and allow these lasers and these charges to travel very far distances. All right. So all these things are happening right in front of us, and we need to be prepared. All right. The soil, and this is just what they admit. There could be more things that are going on behind the scenes as well. This is just what's coming to the surface and what's admitted right now. This is why it's so important to grow your own food, to have your own water, because even the water we get from the city is filled with contaminants, filled with chlorine, it's filled with fluoride, it's filled with all these contaminants, people's medicines and things like this. These very small particles that do not get filtered out are in our water supply at all times already. And then on top of the contamination we're dealing with too, this is why it's so important to grow your own food, to have a well. And you should be getting stocked up on fertilizer too, because natural gas is used in the making of fertilizer. All right, it's a massive component to make fertilizer. A ton of it is used. And now we have one of our biggest natural gas pipelines offline. So that means all the things related to it are going to struggle as well and have energy problems as well, like fertilizer production. So get stocked up on these things now. It's probably perfect timing for your local Tractor Supply, your Rural King. I got my Rural King hat on, been going there for years and years. And it's time to get stocked up now, because These things are happening, and we can see it. Just like this cloud seeding, we can see it right in front of our faces, and they even admit it everywhere. But a lot of people just act like you're just nuts, or you're being a kook. I had this guy tell me to go outside, and like, do I go outside? And told me I live in my mom's basement. I wish I lived in my mom's basement. I would be stress-free. No, I have a family. I have a wife. I have kids. I grow food. I have chickens. I have dogs. I have all this stuff, right? I've lived on my own since I was 18, and I see what's happening, and I see the need to get prepared and to get stocked up, because these things could happen at any moment. We could see cyber attacks on these pipelines as well to shut them down. We could see cyber attacks on the ports, on the supply chain. We saw a massive cyber attack on all of these Canadian ports just last week, or a couple weeks ago now, I reported on. We saw the biggest port in LA shut down due to strikes. All right, we keep seeing all these major weather events, all these tornadoes. We saw down in South Florida, there's gas shortages due to flooding. All these events are hitting the U.S., and you need to be prepared. You need to be stocked up. And if you didn't see this too, the feds are going to seize First Republic Bank in California today. This is happening. This is going to happen over the weekend, and another bank is falling. All right. All these things are coming to light. All these things are happening at once, and it's not a coincidence. And we need to be getting prepared. All right. We need to be getting stocked up. You need to have cash. You need to have physical coins. All right. Gold coins, silver coins, Susan B. Anthony dollar coins, any of these things. All right. Silver dollars. Just get stocked up on some kind of alternative currency and some kind of alternative system that you can use, because these banks are going to slowly collapse until there's only the mega banks left. All right. They're going to absorb all these small banks. We already saw this. They've been pulling all their deposits out of these banks and then putting it into the mega banks. We've been seeing this happen, and we're going to see more of these smaller banks collapse, and these mega banks are going to absorb them. And that doesn't mean you're safe if you're at a mega bank. It just means that there's more risk at this mega bank, and there's more money to insure at a single bank if it collapses. We know that the feds are announcing a central digital currency. This summer, they are announcing a Fed Pay system where you can transfer money through the federal government, all right? Digital money, transferring it through them, like Zelle or PayPal or something like that. You can now transfer money directly through the federal government. That is what they are working on to release this summer, and they are going to try to take this over as the main payment processing platform for online transactions, because it will be the most secure one. That's how they will sell it as, and it will eventually take over because all of these other small banks that are collapsing. All right, so make sure you're stocked up. All these things are on the horizon, and you need to have your family prepared. I know there's all these different things that are coming. I know it's hard to be prepared for all of them, but just start small. Start with a 20-pound bag of rice. Start with $10 of coins. Go get $10 in dollar coins, a roll of dollar coins. Get $10 a month in coins. All right. Start small. Just start stocking up on these things. Get a $10 bag of rice that's 20 pounds, and that can last you for 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks of calories. Get a few canned goods. Start building up slowly, and that's how you win. And soon enough, after a couple months, you will have a ton of preps, and you will be ready, and so will your family. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for allowing me to hit 80K. I cannot believe that 80,000 of you have subscribed. I am super blessed. Thank you to every single one of you. Super blessed. Thank you guys, everyone that's ever watched my channel or anything like that. Please hit it up down there if you want to support the channel and help get this video out to even more people, even further, so more people are prepared. All right, that's the goal here. So thank you guys so much. Super blessed. You guys are a blessing, and I hope you have a big old blessed day and big blessings for your life and for your family too. Thank you guys.